God will use people that have gone through something to demonstrate something. The reason that he does that is, how can you tell somebody how to be something if you never went through something? And when God does that, God will use the person that everybody else looks at and say, oh, God can't use him. God can't use him. He drinks, he cusses, he does this, he's that. But God will say, didn't I use Moses? Didn't I use a murderer? Did I use Paul? The only one that I know that God used that wasn't a sinner was Jesus Christ. So I would say if God can use anybody, surely he can use me. So as Brother Bill started us off with 1 Chronicles 22 through to 8, I want to finish it up, and it's verses 6 through 8 that I want to focus on. And it says, then he called for his son Solomon and charged him to build a house for the Lord, God of Israel. And David said to Solomon, my son, as for me, it was my mind to build this house to the name of the Lord my God. But the word of the Lord came to me, saying, you have shed much blood. Let me say it like this. You shed too much blood. You caused too much anguish, because David was on assignment that God had called him to do. And have made great wars. You shall not build a house for my name, because you have shed so much blood on the earth in my sight. If anybody knows anything about David, David loved God with his heart. And because David loved God with his heart so much, I find myself having the same spirit as David, because I messed up a lot. But God has still put me on assignment to do some things. And when God puts you on assignment to do some things, it doesn't matter what you do. It's what God has you to do. So today's message is going to be about, and pardon me, Mr. Z, but this is what God has said. I'm not just going to single out the boys. I'm going to single out the kids. And then I'm going to bring it to the parents for you to understand. Your kids aren't the only one. It takes a part of you. And everybody around here in this audience, in this ministry, and because everybody's a part of ministry, believe it or not, you impact these kids. So you are preparing the kids for a future. Parents, when you think of your life or having kids, you have great ideas on leaving a legacy for them, what it is the life that you would have them to have, based upon what you didn't have. You know, I wanted my daughter to have the nice things because my mama couldn't give it to me. I wanted my sons to have the nice things because my mother could not give them to me. Well, today, my message is preparing your kids to serve God or even be productive in the world. You must remember that there's two parts of it, though. It's preparing stage and the execution stage. As Brother Bill said, there's going to be two of us speaking. I'm going to do the preparing stage, and Minister Warren's going to do the execution stage. So today, the men of the service hope to convey the importance of the steps and how to go about doing them as parents, and why we as parents, you kids, to understand that we do this to and for you. And under the guardianship of the parents, teachers, mentors, coaches, and anyone God has blessed to be a part of your life. Again, I said parents, mentors, teachers, coaches. Brother Nate cuts most of the young men's heads in here. He mentors these kids. Men, we interact with these kids. We mentor those kids. The teachers, my wife, teaches your kids. She interacts with your kids. So with me focusing on the preparation stage, which I believe the Bible has two supporting scriptures today. One of them, and just read this later, is Ephesians 6, 1 through 4. And in Ephesians 6, 1 through 4, I grabbed it from the Message Bible. It says, children, do what your parents tell you. This is only right. Honor your father and mother. It is the first commandment that has a promise attached to it, namely saying, so you will live well and have a long life. But now, there's something else to Ephesians that most people forget about, and that's number 4. Fathers, parents, don't exasperate your children by coming down on them. Take them by the hand and lead them in the way of the Master. Amen. Jesus taught us everything. He had to teach us everything through compassion. Right. Sometimes you have to discipline your kids, but don't discipline them out of anger. Discipline them out of love. Amen. Which speaks to the commandments in Ephesians 6, 1 through 4, which speaks to the commandments from God and the reward of long life to adherence to it. So kids, if you listen to what your parents say, whether they're right or wrong, you're going to get long life behind it. Right. But the key thing is listen to your parents. And the second is Proverbs 22 and 6. Now, I like Proverbs because Proverbs is making plain talk. Proverbs is telling you what's going to happen, how it's going to happen, and why it should happen. It's just plain talk. And I took it from New King James Version. Proverbs 22:6 says, parents, this is plain talk for you, guardians, mentors, teachers. Train up your child in the way he or she should go. And when he or she is old, he or she will not depart from it. What does that mean? That means make it plain for your children. Don't fuss at your children if you're not going to lead by that example. I'm guilty of doing it. I had my son here, and it was something that I didn't do. I would tell him something that he needed to do, but I forgot to live that. So when you do that, it's speaking directly to the parents. This isn't just a message for the children. It's a message for the parents that lead the children. The reason I use the term guardian is because, truthfully, parents don't just raise their kids anymore. They are influenced by so many others. As we as adult figures, we may be influencing them and not know the importance of what we're doing. The example we showed them. I just told you that I was guilty of myself. But what we don't do, Brother Kimball said it earlier this week, the world will do it for us. So now we must take a hands-on approach. Hands-on approach is doing. It's a verb. Take a hands-on approach in raising the kids. We like to forget that when we were growing up, that the village raised the kids. We are still a village. I hate to say it, we're on lodges, we are a village. So with us being on this island, we have to take the time to see, hey, Tamar may be in the rain. Hey, Tamar, you need a ride? Hey, Tamar, call your mom, let her know it's getting late. You know, hey, you need something? You need a haircut? Let me get you to them. But we don't just do this for the kids, we do this for our elders too. The fact is this, we're here to serve one another. So as I get into the text of it, it's going to be real short, and I promise you it's going to be me reading, but I want you to understand where it's coming from, because this is what God has said. So the first thing I will say to the parents, preparing your child does not mean doing it for your child. What does that mean, parents? If your child messes up in school, don't harp on the teacher. First, look at the problem and say, hey, are you doing what you're supposed to do? A lot of times if you remember in the old days, if you got messed up in school, your parents say, boy, girl, what are you doing wrong? But the first thing that parents want to do is they want to jump on the teachers. We got to stop doing it. The fact is this, we got to say, hey, are you doing your homework? When you get home, don't say, well, hey, go upstairs and do your homework. Are we checking the homework? Because the fact is this, if we don't prepare our child, we don't make things ready for consideration. And this is what I'm saying. When I thought about peppering JJ, most of y'all that was here knew that my son JJ lived with us for a little bit. That means setting things up for him. When JJ first came to live with us, and I'm going to say something, and I really love my wife for it, she would say, Durrell, it's time to teach JJ how to do some dishes. I was like, well, he's not ready. He's not ready. But she's like, he's ready. I was like, he ain't ready because he has no responsibility. He's not ready. But she said, try it. And she was right. I have to say, I only say it in front of all y'all. She was right. And when prepping JJ as a dad, that meant setting things up to ensure that they are able to complete the task at hand. Hold up. Isn't that what King David did for Solomon? Okay. Isn't that what King David did for Solomon? Because of the fact that he shed so much blood, God said you cannot do it. But God allowed him to set these things up for his child. But again, he did not build the temple for Solomon because that was not what God said to do. If David would have done it, you know what David would have did? He'd have sinned against God. He'd have been disobedient. I am a parent, and I remember how hard it is to grow up without having something. So, you know, what it means to grow up without things that I desired. You know, I grew up, I didn't have Jordans. I had Reeboks. I had HJ900s. You know, those are the shoes that you get out the bin at Walmart. You know what I'm talking about. Bobos. And then PFYs. Nah, I had Converse. I had Chucks, and they were like $20 back then. Not $150 for a pair of Converse. Walmart. Payless shoe store. You don't know where that store is? I know that store well. And my mama had this plan. I didn't know what it was called, but it was called Lay Away. Not charge it, lay away. That means I'm gonna pay a little bit on it and a little bit more on it, and it may have been summer clothes, but you're gonna get them by Christmas. Lay away, but you got them fresh for next summertime if you ain't grow up, if you ain't sprout up. So, but as I realized, as a parent, I have to follow what God's word is too. I have to be obedient, not disobedient to God. The word directs us. In Proverbs 22, it says, train them up the right way. But when you give them everything that they want, they say, I need this. No, it's I want this. When you give them everything that they want, what happens? They don't toil. They haven't worked for it. I have to use a great example of a family here. And I'll put them on them, and I know they're a very humble family, but the Chains, their daughter's babysitting our daughter. And I said, well, what's going on, Miss Renee? She said, well, the girls are going to Germany. They need to raise some money. I said, well, hey, I know parents that need some babysitters. I put their name out there on the block. The reason I did that is because the fact is this, they're raising their children up to be cognizant of spending money and making money. See, what y'all don't know is this, because they train them up the right way, when they come over to my house, I'm not worried about them being on the telephone and not worrying about my daughter. I'm more worried about that my daughter has ran them through the middle. Because usually what happens when Brittany and Crystal Zoe has trained them to have her sleep in their arms. And I'm like, hey, y'all can watch TV, eat whatever you want, stay away from this in the cabinet. He's like, well, we've already taken care of things. All I'm here to do is just babysit your child. That's a job. So when they go to Germany, and they went to Germany, they had an awesome time. They were able to have their own money, that they understood the importance and the value of the money. See, when God directed us to train our children, He directed us to make sure that we put them in the right way, to prepare them. When children grow up and believe in the world owes them something, they're wrong. You're not entitled to anything in the world. Let's be real. We have a lot of new airmen coming into the military, since we're in the military community, that has a sense of expectation. Because I graduated from there, I get to leave early because I sat at my desk and did my job. No, you leave early as a reward. As a parent, Dad, Mom, I want some new Jordans. Well, how your grades look? You want me to drop $200 on you for some, but you just was caught cussing in school and the teacher just told me about it. You want Jordans? Nah. Matter of fact, we about to go to the BX. We're going to go shop on clearance right. Since you want some new tennis shoes, you still going to pay for these out your money and don't ask me for nothing else. The reason that I say that is, I want to be finished and I'm down to my last paragraph. The reason I want to say this is because parents, we have to get back to training our kids. Because as we train our kids, we're preparing them for life. Let me say this, life. Life is hard. When you don't have money and you don't have good credit, you got to sell something or pawn something. Or am I the only person that ever used the pawn system before? Am I the only person that had to, hey man, if you cut my hair, I'll wash your car? It's called the barter system. Well, Nate, I ain't gonna wash your car. I'll tell you right now. But if you cut my hair because I earned my $10, I'll give you €10 instead. Give you some little extra. But now, kids, I need to talk to y'all. Now that I've covered the parts with parents, let me tell this just for you. Let me explain to you why we do this as parents. We don't do this because we like waking up and being mean to y'all. I mean, I know some of the kids around here, when they leave and they go to school, they cuss their parents out and say, how dare they did this to me? How dare they did that to me? And it may not be at lodges, but at my old church that I was a mentor at, I would hear these kids talking about this, just that plain. And I'm like, whoa, they gave you life. They were only responsible to feed you, clothe you, and provide you a place to sleep. And I'm going to show you something in my life what happened, and I'm glad JJ's not here, but I can say this. JJ got a habit of being angry when he was at his old school. And at his old school, JJ one day made a comment that I didn't raise him to say. And I know where he heard it from, but that wasn't important. I got so fed up with him that if you know anything about Palm Bay County, Brevard County, Palm Bay, Florida, there is a lot of racism there. However, you know what to do. So I rolled up to the nearest Palm Bay police officer and said, hey, we was at Radio Shack by our house. And I said, hey, can I talk to you real quick? He said, well, I'm doing something right now, but give me a second. What I didn't know, that he was at Radio Shack arresting the guy that worked there. He pulled him out, brought him outside, handcuffed him, and as the guy was on the car like this, he said, man, you don't want to go through what I'm going through right now. He said that to my son. And then he got in the car, the cop turned on the car, and just commenced to turn on the air conditioner and close the door and spent the extra 30 minutes with my son. What you don't know is, being that we have a racist community, most people would make an automatic assumption that this guy, Caucasian guy, bald head, tattoos on his arm, that's a cop, was a racist, but he was not. But what this cop did turn out doing is saying, hey, son, let me talk to you real quick. See, your dad is only responsible for doing this. Now that your dad has given you a place to sleep, he doesn't have to give you a door. He does not have to give you a bed. He makes you a pallet on the floor, gives you the same clothes, and you can wash your clothes yourself in the sink. And he can give you a cheese sandwich every night. He said, now you can do it your dad's way, or you can do it my way. And he said, now if you do it my way, you're not going to like what I'm going to do, because you're going to have grown men and grown women watching what you're doing every day when you go to the bathroom. You're going to have people messing with you while you're sleeping. And I'm like, wow, I didn't mean for him to get scared straight like that, because I was scared to death. I mean, I was like, hey, I'm not doing anything else. But what I said was, okay, God, I hear what you're saying. You're preparing my son. I'm trying to prepare you for life tomorrow. Okay. Sinead's boys. Gaines kids. You know, Nigel, any adult in here, I'm really trying to prepare y'all for life, because when y'all join the military, when y'all walk out, y'all get out of the military, things will not be given to you. You have to work for it. And every lesson that you've been going through right now is to prepare you for life. As I say this part, and I don't need this, Brother Bill, you gave me the best advice you could ever said, go with what God tells you. And as I say this part, it's simple. Kids, we understand that life is a whole lot different than what your mom and me went through. We understand that the bullying is a little bit more impressionable on y'all than what it was. Truth of the matter is, I was bullied a lot of times. And a cat named Durrell Simmons, I still remember this cat, wanted to fight me over a candy bar. And what I did was I kept fighting him until I earned his respect. You can't do that these days. You cannot fight in schools these days, because the fact is, what happens is, if you fight, you're out. You get handcuffs. Life is different. We understand that. What ends up happening for y'all is, we're going to prepare y'all. We want to prepare y'all, not to be mean, not to hammer down on y'all. We just want to talk to y'all because we want you to know that you're going to experience something. And everything that you're experiencing in life, and I'm a firm believer of it, is what God has prepared you for, to tell your story to somebody else. God is preparing your parents through the struggles that they went through to help you get somewhere. Yes, so what, you're being raised by a single mother or a single father. Yes, so what, your parents have been through something. You've seen your parents be abused themselves. But you need to understand, they're preparing you. My part in this was to prepare you for life. Now, there's a next part of this called execution. So I'm going to call Minister Warren now to let you teach you how to execute what you have to do to prepare you to work for God. Thank you. Amen. Amen.